10. Pyramids. Let's start with the obvious. How on earth did the ancient Egyptians build the pyramids? Their spectacular design and structure required tremendous skill. Yet the Egyptians somehow found a way to build not one but several pyramids across Egypt. They were the burial places of dead pharaohs. The building of these pyramids required millions of blocks of stone, each weighing tons. According to specialist Richard Koslow, only one stone would require 10 men to lift 400 kilograms, 900 lb, each. That is practically impossible. Even if the workers all had Superman's powers, how does that explain the amazing precision of the pyramids? The blocks were cut so precisely that you would think computers and machines were used to do so. The ratio of the Great Pyramid's circumference to its original height is equal to the value of pi. So how did they do it? Unless there was indeed a mutant breathing at the time like X-Men, Apocalypse indicates, there is no possible explanation of such accomplishment without the use of an extremely advanced technology that we are not aware of. 9. Electricity. Ancient Egyptians left behind a lot of hieroglyphs that have great historical and artistic value. But that isn't the most significant thing about them. There are drawings that have created a lot of amazement among people, especially among those who are curious about ancient Egypt. One case is that of a hieroglyph appearing to show the Egyptians in possession of electricity. It depicts people holding what seems to be an electrical lamp or light bulb. That has raised a lot of suspicion. If the hieroglyph is really portraying an electrical lamp, then how did they discover electricity back then? The hieroglyph may indicate the scientific and technological capacities that ancient Egyptians potentially possessed. 8. Visionary hieroglyphs. If you thought the light bulb glyph is the only interesting ancient Egyptian hieroglyph that has survived, then you're wrong. Another is said to show far more advanced technology. The figures in it are very similar to images of a helicopter and a plane. The hieroglyph, which has gone viral, raises even more questions about the development of Egyptian technology. How did the ancient Egyptians have any ideas of flying instruments back in their day? There is always a possibility that the hieroglyph is being interpreted the wrong way. But the chances of that are very low, given how accurate the image of the helicopter in particular is. It is certainly one of the biggest indicators of the presence of a more advanced species. 7. Photogenic aliens on ancient money. Of all the possible indications of potential extraterrestrial life in ancient Egypt, this one would be the weakest, but that, however, doesn't make it unworthy of consideration. During a house renovation in Egypt, coins were found that had unusual portraits on them. One resembles the head and shoulders of an alien. The images on the other coin show an alien spaceship, or at least that is what it looks like. People have opposed this theory by suggesting that the carvings have been manipulated by passionate believers in alien life. However, these coins are still very possibly from ancient Egypt. And if that is the case, few can oppose the theory that aliens did indeed populate or at least help Egypt back in the day. 6. Unusual mummy. Another sign that excites supporters of the claim that ancient Egypt was visited by aliens is a mummy recently discovered in a small pyramid near Seneret II's pyramid. The structure of its skeleton does not resemble that of a human's body. The face is what looks especially different. The mummy was uncovered by Dr. Victor Lubeck, a retired professor from the University of Pennsylvania. The remains were found surrounded by unusual objects that could not be identified. An anonymous source claimed that the mummy does not originate from Earth and that it has greatly troubled Egyptian authorities, who want to keep it a secret. According to the source, in life the mummy served as an advisor to Pharaoh Osiris. Governments refuse to admit the implications that such a discovery has for human history, but they still fail to provide the world with significant explanation for it. This mummy isn't the only discovery that has reinforced the alien rumors. 5. The astonishingly placed Pyramids of Giza. The Pyramids of Giza are positioned in a way that is more than coincidental. 3 pyramids perfectly match with the stars in Orion's belt. Even the pyramid's sizes are related to the brightness of the stars. Where 2 pyramids are identical with the third being half as high as them, 2 stars are equally bright with the third half as bright. The pyramids are even positioned in an almost perfect line with the North Magnetic Pole. Coincidence? Think again. This positioning of the pyramids would have required massive knowledge in science, geometry, and astronomy, to say the least, knowledge comparable to today's capacities. How did an ancient civilization acquire such knowledge? 4. Akhenaten. Akhenaten was potentially one of the biggest religious innovators in human history. The Egyptian pharaoh who lived and ruled during the 18th dynasty is famous as the one who switched Egypt from a polytheistic society into a monotheistic one. The god that the pharaoh worshipped was called Aten, or the sun disk. Akhenaten's devotion for his god even pushed him to build a whole city for Aten. In poetry of the time, the pharaoh is portrayed as being visited by beings from the sky. Some have even indicated that he was one of these beings himself. Akhenaten brought religious and social revolution in Egypt and started a new era for the nation. To do so in a traditionally polytheistic civilization adds to the suspicion that he wasn't doing it alone but was guided. 3. Thule Papyrus. The Thule Papyrus is potentially the best primary source that suggests an alien presence in ancient Egypt. The papyrus supposedly contains sightings of UFOs during the time when Thutmose III ruled Egypt. In his description of the events, the person who wrote the papyrus says that a circle of fire approached from the skies. The objects, which seem to have been some form of alien discs, increased in number but eventually left. The papyrus is said to have been found by the former director of the Egyptian section of the Vatican Museum, Alberto Thule. When he died, Thule's belongings passed to his brother, but before long, the brother died, too, and the papyrus could not be located. One of the most important original sources that could change a lot of things we know about human history went missing just like that, or at least that's what they want us to believe. Although a lot have questioned the authenticity of the document, the Thule Papyrus remains a major indicator of extraterrestrial life in ancient Egypt. 2. Hieroglyphs on spaceships. Another important factor that has raised more questions regarding aliens in ancient Egypt is the alleged finding of Egyptian hieroglyphs on both the Roswell UFO and the one witnessed at Rendlesham Forest. The symbols found in the Roswell UFO, which supposedly crashed in 1947, apparently match up with those seen on the Rendlesham object in 1980. In particular, a triangle with 2 spheres was allegedly found on both these UFOs. Why would 2 UFOs that crashed 33 years apart share similar, if not the same, ancient symbols? If information was disclosed and the symbols were proven to be linked, it would be more than a coincidence, and it would present some serious implications about ancient Egyptian society. However, the hieroglyphs on these 2 UFOs still reinforce the suspicion that has risen on the subject of extraterrestrial influence in ancient Egypt. 1. Ancient artifacts. Ancient artifacts were allegedly found in the former home of Sir William Petrie, aka Flinders Petrie, who is considered one of the best Egyptologists in history. The items found at his old house in Jerusalem were rumored to be of unearthly origin. Among the items were 2 mummified bodies, allegedly of extraterrestrials, as well as items featuring symbols that could not be explained. The artifacts were taken from Petrie's home by Jerusalem's Rockefeller Museum and are said to be kept secret by them. Being one of the best archaeologists of all time, it is hard to imagine that Petrie would have hidden the items if they weren't of massive importance. His reputation has fueled the rumors of extraterrestrial life in Egypt even more. In the end, physical proof is very hard to find, but we should always remember that evidence of high importance isn't really accessible by the public. However, these 10 signs do help us form a strong argument that the Egyptian people didn't score so many major accomplishments on their own. The findings create a pattern that is consistent with logic and are attracting more people every day to invest in the mysteries of ancient Egypt. If you liked the video, then like, subscribe and don't forget the bell so that new videos are posted on the channel.